The federal minimum wage has been frozen at $7.25 since 2009, marking the longest stretch without an adjustment since the wage floor was set and established in 1938. Now, imagine working a full-time job every single day of the year and still falling below the poverty line that was set. This is a reality for millions because today a full-time worker cannot afford a modest two-bedroom apartment in any county in the United States. This isn't just a personal struggle. This is a systematic crisis where families are forced to take on a second or third job just to scrape by and live on the minimum. Raising the federal minimum wage is more than a policy shift. This is a vital investment for the growing middle class. By gradually increasing the floor to $17 per hour, we can lift families out of poverty, bridge systematic pay gaps, and stimulate the economy of the country. Today, me and you will explore how this change impacts our standard of living, social equity, and business efficiency. We often hear that getting a job is the best way out of poverty, that if we get a really good job, we will not be poor. Well, this is a lie. The Congressional Budget Office states that nearly 60% of poor households include at least one employed person. The current wage is simply not something you can live with. And under the Raise the Wage Act of 2025, the average affected worker will see an annual income boost or around $3,200. And for those in the bottom of the 20% of earners, a $15 floor alone could provide a life-changing for an annual increase of about $6,000. Now, this is not only just a number on a spreadsheet. It's a difference between financial ruin and stability in a family. Currently, 3 out of 10 adults cannot cover a $400 emergency expense. An $800 annual raise for the typical worker will allow them to finally meet unanticipated costs like vehicle repairs or even medical services. This policy supports directly affected workers earning below the new rate and indirectly affected workers who see a spillover raises as pay scales that adjust upwards. By boosting the income of low-wage earners, we lift their families to a real income and pull hundreds of thousands out of poverty. Raising the wage is also a primary tool for racial and gender justice. Women and workers of color in general are disproportionately represented by low-wage industries. In fact, over 57% of the workers who would benefit from a $17 minimum wage are women. For Black and Latino communities, where roughly 31% and 26% of workers respectively would receive a raise, this policy is very essential. Let's say that if a $15 minimum wage has been placed in 2021, Black women will have experienced the largest reduction in their pay gap on record. Their earnings will have risen from 62 cents for every dollar and by white men to 66 cents, which is maybe 4 cents more, but it's, if you look at the large scale, it's actually a lot. Furthermore, this act protects workers in the South, especially states like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Oklahoma, where wages are often the lowest and where state-level protections are frequently just non-existent. Stats given by the National Employment Lab Project said that critics often worry about the economy, but consumer spending drives 70% of our economy engine. When we put money into the pockets of low-wage workers, they spend it immediately in local businesses, increasing demand and maintaining product. Beyond spending, business actually gain efficiency through reduced employee turnover and increased productivity. When workers are paid a dignified wage, they are more satisfied, lead to higher customer satisfaction, and are less likely to leave the job. Let's look at the San Francisco airport case study. After wages rose from $6.45 to $10, turnover among security screeners plunged from 95% to just 19%. This saves employers a massive amount on recruitments, retraining, and restaffing costs, which is awesome. Now, we have to acknowledge the concerns. Opponents argue that small businesses could face tighter margins or the childcare costs might rise by the average person of 21%. Some also can point out that the cost of living varies very widely, noting that the average home value in California is over $635,000, well, it's only about $145,000 in Oklahoma. However, the evidence suggests that these fears may be overstated, and let's say that we also have an analysis by Meta of 37 published studies found no evidence that minimum wage increases have a significant negative effect on the U.S. employment. While the Congressional Budget Office notes that some uncertainty regarding job responsiveness, they also find that poverty reducing effects are generally larger than any potential employment losses. Furthermore, potential benefit cliffs for means-tested programs like SNAP can be managed by adjusting income eligibility for thresholds. Raising the minimum wage is not only about a paycheck, it's about dignity, equity, and building a stable workforce within the country in general. It is a necessary investment to grow the middle class and ensure that no one who works full-time has to live in poverty. The Raise the Wage Act will result in total wage increases of over 70 billion to 22 million workers. It is a time for a wage floor that reflects the modern cost of living that we're having right now. And let's support a living wage that allows every worker the right to thrive and live a good life.